You ready, Greg?
Let's go, Jay.
You're listening to The Success Paradigm with your hosts, Jay Atkins and Greg Gray.
All right, here we are, Success Paradigm. And we're going to talk about a lot of cool stuff, but there's been some developments in your life, Jay, since I think the last time we did a podcast. And I think for people that may have missed it or didn't know about it, because I know it was all over your social media, can you tell people what actually kind of transpired here recently?
Yeah, there was royalty that came into my family. Another princess actually came into the family back on February 6th of 2021 at 10:26 p.m. at 7 pounds, 7 ounces, 21 inches long. Not that I have that embedded in my
I was going to
memory.
say, do you have details? You have details?
I have details. Yeah, it was a harrowing experience. I realized again 3 years later that if men had to have babies, we would have an empty planet with dinosaurs still. So, yeah, I'm super, super excited. You know, a lot of people I always hear say they're sleep deprived, and I am just lucky with this one so far. She sleeps 3-4 hours at a time. My wife and I have a system that she was not very keen on when I brought up this system. And, you know, with success, I think that's been the biggest reason that I've had success in my life is because of systems. And so when I tried to run this system by my wife, I was like, yeah, I have an idea. I think if we did this, we had a system, we could each get at least 6 to 7 hours of sleep a night. And, we're splitting the duties. And, lo and behold, I am right 95% of the time. And it ended up working out. I'm just kidding. Maybe it's really like 96.
We're recording this. Yeah.
Oh, that's true. It's true.
We're recording.
So super, super happy to have a beautiful princess in my life. And now I've got 2 princesses in my life, and life is great. I'm just excited to start this journey with her.
Princess number 1 is Luna, and princess number 2 is Sky. So that is awesome. So, and she is absolutely beautiful. And I'm just going to say, thank God for mom. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh, so, yeah. She didn't get my nose. That's a very good thing. That's what my wife looks for. The first thing that she comes out, it's like, nope. Yeah. She didn't get your nose.
Yeah. I don't really get your nose either. Honestly, I've thought about that. That's been troubling to me. But enough of your nose and your schnozola. We are here talking about success, and it's you and me. And I'm really excited about this because we've been wanting to have this conversation for a while around 2 really integral components to success that are very often left a little fuzzy and slow people down. So one of them is expectations. And it sounds simple, but I'm telling you, I continue to learn over and over again that when you don't have clear expectations, a lot of things start falling apart. You've mentioned before, Jay, the fact that you only have expectations of people you pay. And because those are the only people you can really have expectations of. Well, there are a lot of other people walking around in our orbit too, like whether they can be employees like you and I have, or they can be family members or friends. And the idea is that if we can be clearer on what we want or expect from people, we might get closer to being successful in not just business, but in our personal relationships too. The key, though, is once you have some expectations, you got to be able to put those in play. And I know a big part of that is systems. By the way, you said the word systems like 8 times, and I know you're a systems guy, and that's just how you roll, especially though around setting goals. So you lay some groundwork with expectations, and then you got to be able to kind of march these out in a targeted way, in a goal oriented way. And so I know you want to talk a little bit about goals too, right?
Yeah. So, what I want to do, and you kind of stole my thunder there, like you always do. But
they called me Thunder is my middle name, by the way.
Yeah. And Steel is your first name. So yeah, I mean, this is something that I've been coaching and teaching on, and really was a big realization in my life, especially after marriage. And I've always had expectations of friends and people, and And what I've always found is I was always let down. I was always disappointed because I had all of these expectations from people. And there's only two people. You mentioned one of them. There's only two people that you can really have expectations from. And I love where this conversation is going to go, because what you're going to talk about today is kind of defining what people expectations they do have on you, and kind of agreeing and disagreeing if you can live up to those expectations or not. But there's really only two people you can have expectations from, and that's people that you pay money, because that's a contract, right? If I have someone come mow my grass or clean my car, I'm paying them money to get my car cleaned. So I can have an expectation that they do a good job, or they do the job that I want them to. If I have an employee that works for me and I'm paying them a salary, I can have an expectation for you to do the job a certain way, because that's a contract. We have a contract. You sign a contract. I'm paying you money every single month. And the other person, and the only other person that you can have an expectation from, is yourself. And I'm going to get into this about yourself, because this is really, really interesting when we get into this. And this is going to kind of segue into, after you help us set those expectations, or at least write them down, on expectations of yourself are really goals, right? Every year, New Year's, whatever, you want to call it, we have a New Year's resolution or a promise to ourselves, and most people break those, right?
Right.
So what I want to talk about today is how we can keep from doing that. But I want to go a little bit further into the expectations. Now, I know a lot of people say, well, I can have expectations from my wife. Wrong. The only expectations that I have of my wife are the vows that we took before God. Those are clearly stated, what I will do and what I will not do. That's it. I cannot expect my wife to be in a good mood every single day, because when we were dating, she sure in the hell wasn't in a good mood every single day. So when we got married, all of a sudden now you're supposed to be in a good mood every day. My wife didn't cook breakfast for me every single morning that I woke up. When we got married, that didn't mean all of a sudden we signed a contract for you to cook breakfast for me every day, or I'm supposed to cook breakfast for you every day, right? I'm going to be let down. And if I expect you to be in a great mood when I come home every single day, this is what happens. Now she has a newborn. She has a 3-year-old. She has a business. Day might have got hectic. She might have had a technology problem like we had today. She might be frustrated. I walk in the door. I have a 30-minute drive home from work, and I've, kind of released my pressure. I'm in a great mood. And I walk in the door and I just want her to be affectionate with me, give me a kiss, show me love, tell me how much she loves me. And then she doesn't. And then my expectations of what I wanted when I walked in the door go out the window. I get pissed.
Right.
And then this is what people do with expectations, Greg. When somebody doesn't live up to your expectations, they give it meaning. Now, back in the day, a year ago, when I used to call you, you would pick up the phone every single time I called you. It created an expectation. Now you never pick up the damn phone when I call you,
Well,
and I get angry.
Yeah, so you didn't change your expectation. You just
I
said
didn't.
that?
No, I
Okay,
didn't.
okay.
I didn't. I'm not living by my own rule
I'm
when it
not
comes
sure
to
how
you.
that worked. Yeah.
But
Okay.
listen, I'm just telling you right now, you need to pick up the phone. So anyways, but that's what we do, right? If we
Yeah.
text someone and they usually text us back right away, and all of a sudden they don't text us, we automatically go in this place of, well, I'm not a priority anymore. They don't care about me. Why am I not important? So what I want everyone listening on here today, a big part of success is removing all of that noise and all of that negative energy and that negative self-talk you have in your mind when you have expectations for people. If you remove all those expectations from people that they don't even know, because this is the thing about expectations. Some of you listening might not know who this is, but Dionne Warwick was a psychic to the stars back in the day.
Oh my goodness. Absolutely.
The only psychic that I know, that I've ever heard of, right? There's not many of them on the planet. Now, my wife thinks I'm a psychic. She thinks I can read her mind. She thinks that I know exactly what she's thinking when she's thinking it every single day. And I keep telling her I have no idea what's on your mind. And I'm glad I don't. But that's what expectations are.
Well, and so you're kind of hitting on where I think some of the challenges with expectations, because I think one of the challenges for me, and I still grow and learn through this, is we typically think of expectations in one direction. And we don't typically think of it as being a two-way street, because everyone that we expect things of, whether we should or not, also expects things of us. And so, so Stan Tebow just put in there Psycho J Night Psychic. I think you might
My
be
wife
onto
would agree
something.
with that
Yeah,
sometimes, I'm sure.
I think you may be onto something, Stan. So the idea of expectations and how they work in the most effective way is to understand and embrace the fact that you're not the only one that has them. and that everybody else walking around on this planet has them as well. And the challenge is that because I have expectations of Jay, for example, what I may be doing unconsciously is I might be superimposing what I think his expectations are of me. Problem is, I'm not asking him. And if I don't ask him, I don't confirm them. Not only are my expectations off, but in my mind, his are too, because I don't even know what they are. So that was a jumble there,
No, no,
but
no, no,
that
no,
is a
no.
big part of what the
And this is the
challenge is.
thing. Like we're talking about this, like just because it's something we talk about. It's not like a scripted
Yeah.
podcast. But the great thing about what you're talking about is you're actually going to give them a system
Yes.
to have effective communication, because that's what expectations are that go wrong is ineffective communication, because
Yeah.
people don't know what they are because they're not psychic. So let's take the expectations I can have from employees and people that work for me. If I go to a restaurant and I pay $30 for a filet mignon, I can go to Whole Foods and get it for 15, cook it myself, and it's cooked the way I want it. But if I go to a restaurant, I can have expectations that someone serves it with a smile. Like, I can have those expectations.
Sure.
But the crazy thing about expectations is we will get angry with people when they don't live up to our expectations that they don't even know exist. They don't even
Well,
know we have
and
those
there
expectations.
you go, because there is this little thing called communication
Correct.
that might actually make this a little easier and tie it together, because I think we do a lot of for the Star Wars folks out there, a lot of Jedi mind tricks. We think we can kind of uh, place into other people's minds what we want them to think and what we want them to expect, and other people have they have lives too, and they're not always spending their life with us in the middle of their universe. So I do want to talk about this in the simplest way, and I want to do that not because I think people are simple, it's because that's the only way it works for me, because I think in very simple terms. So uh, there's this thing that I would encourage everybody to consider, and I
Are
call it.
you going to an index card thing right now?
Yeah,
No,
I'm
no, I'm
going.
not. I'm not finished yet.
Oh, but Jay, I think you're done.
No, no,
Honestly.
no.
Okay.
No, seriously, there's a really, really important part.
Oh, where's mute? Is there?
No,
Can I? I
there's a
don't.
no.
I can't do the
It's
mute.
gonna segue. Trust me. See,
Okay.
this
All
is
right.
why. This is why I told you we should practice.
No, we should not. Absolutely.
So
Okay. Go for it.
let me just talk about the expectations, because it's going
Okay.
to go in well with what you're saying. So
Okay.
the part that we don't have, the other expectation is of ourselves, right?
Mhm.
That we will let ourselves down in a minute. We'll let ourselves off the hook in a minute. So we'll get
Yeah.
angry
Yeah.
at people that fail our expectations. But when you set a promise for yourself and you don't live up to that expectation,
Yep.
then you're not angry with yourself.
That's
And the
what
reason
Gary John Bishop teaches us that every time we talk to him. Is
And so the
golden.
reason why we're going to talk about goal setting after you talk about how to effectively communicate is what I figured out early on is and you, Greg, you've heard me say this a million times.
Yeah.
I'm a man of my word. I'm a man
Mhm.
of my word. And I hate when people aren't a man of their word. And what I figured out is the only reason I was a man of my word is because I had a big ass ego. And I didn't want to look bad. I didn't want to
Right.
look bad to anybody.
Right. Right.
So what I did is I leveraged that against myself. And I figured out, if I tell people and I set these goals for everyone to know what I'm going to do, and I talked to Greg about it, and I talked to Lola about it, and I talked to my wife about it, I'm going to hit these goals. So these expectations that you have of other people, you need to let them go. And then you need to make sure the expectations you have of yourself, you tell everyone about them, and then you live into those expectations, and then you can reach your goals that we're going to talk about setting at the end. Once we set those, you're going to tell everyone. But what Greg is going to tell you is how to communicate with people effectively so that you are on the same page. You're not hiring Dionne Warwick to be the sidekick of the stars, and figure out what people are thinking. And this is also what Greg is going to teach you today, is absolutely changed my marriage. It's changed my business. It's changed my friendships, because whenever there's a miscommunication, I'm like, okay, all right, let's do what Greg is going to teach you.
Very good. That was an introduction. Was that an introduction? To
That's what you call in radio and TV business a segue, Greg.
It was a little rough.
Yours was an interruption.
I'm not going to lie to you.
Yours
a
was an
little rough.
interruption. Yeah.
So I miss you, Jay.
We had an outline, but Greg
Yes.
didn't go by it.
I had it. Where is it? Well. Anyway, So the conversation really does, you did set it up pretty good. And so I want you to think, everybody, about this very simple, cut and dry way of thinking about things. So, and here's what I want you to do. I want you to kind of go through a little trip in your mind with me. Let's say that think of someone that you really, and I know Jay says you're not supposed to expect things of people, but we do. We Maybe we shouldn't expect as much, but we do expect some things of some people. So, and they expect some things of us. So, let's say there's someone that is close to you, that is in your orbit, that you do have some expectations. And let's not even talk work. Let's talk, it could be someone in a relationship, it could be someone that's a friend of yours, it could be a neighbor, it could be someone that's just in your orbit. And let's say I gave you a simple 4x6 index card, just a simple little 4x6 index card. And with this person in mind, your task would be to write down on that 4x6 index card what it is you expect of them. Now, there's a reason we're using an index card and not a legal pad, because if you use a legal pad, you're going to write down too much.
So Greg, do me a favor.
Yeah.
Let's play this out on a podcast
Okay.
with them, right? So because I want to give them examples, right? So
Okay.
let's give them an example of, like, what do you want to do? Friend, child, wife, like give an example of what the types of things that they might write on their index card that would be,
Well, I don't
feasible.
know. I don't know about that, because it
So
may
do
be
me.
different.
I'm your
I do.
friends.
It
I'm
do.
your friend. Let's do
No,
the index card. You're my friend.
no, I don't want to do it that way, because
No? Okay.
I want people to actually think about it in their own terms. Because if we plan it out there, it may not be what it is for them.
Okay.
So you and I will do it, and we actually have done this a couple of times.
Yep.
So I want you literally to think, folks, about writing down what it is you expect of this person. You know who that person is, um, on an index card, 4x6 index card, not much space, about that big. Okay. And you jot those things down. And let's say magically I could collect those cards from all of you. And then we could invite the person that you're thinking about into this space and exit you. So you're actually out of the room. We bring them into the room and we give all of them an index card. And then we ask all those folks that you were thinking about when you filled out your index card, we ask them to fill out an index card with what they thought you wrote down for them on your index
There
card.
used to be a game show like this, like with couples, and
it would have been
they would do
great.
the cards. No, there was. Remember, I don't know if you remember the couples
Dating
where
game? Was it the dating?
I think it was
Newlywed game.
Newlywed Game. That's it.
Yes,
That's
yes,
it.
yes, yes. Newlywed game. Boy, we are dating ourselves now. That was an awesome. I, I'm not sure all those people are still together, by the way. Just by the way.
There was a
it
lot of card slapping and
Yes,
things
there
like that.
was. Yes, there was. So the idea, folks, is that if this person writes on their index card, remember, they're trying to guess what you wrote down on your index card, what you're expecting of them. If what they write down on their card does not match what you wrote down on your card, then there's going to be problems. Because the more space there is between their perception of your expectations of them and your actual expectations of them, the more air there is between those, the more difficult this conversation and this relationship is going to be. Because here's the deal: people are funny about expectations, Jay. They don't work without them for long. They may give you a little bit of time to form you, or maybe tell them what they are. But if I don't hear them in enough time, what I'll actually do is I'll just make them up in my mind for you. So Jay doesn't tell me what he expects. So what I do is well, I think this is probably what he expects. And they start taking form and they start taking root. And if my uh, idea of this takes root and it starts growing, and then all of a sudden it runs headlong into what you are thinking, Jay, it's going to be very difficult to uproot what I have in my mind, because that's already taken root. It's already real for me, even though it's not real in terms of our relationship.
Yeah, that meaning
Yes.
that you're giving it.
Absolutely, because it's not right. Because it doesn't just it's not just bulleted things. It's the emotions that go along with all the bulleted things. So when I see or hear or watch you do something that isn't in line with what I have in my head, That's not just about disappointment. That's about emotions. That is about, it can be resentment, quite frankly.
Oh
I've
yeah,
seen
and
that.
I've had that with my wife. I can see that look. You know, we're reading this
Well, you
book right
know,
now, The Magic of Thinking Big, and one of the
yeah,
things he talks about in there is
yeah,
we don't need language. I mean, I don't
no,
need language to my wife. I know when she's in an ill mood. I know when she's pissed. I know I could body language.
yeah,
And the thing is you know, when you start giving something meaning, the meaning's different for both. Just like you said,
sure,
like I
sure.
mean, my meaning, you know, and that's what I'll ask my wife. I'm like, when I see that face, I'm like, oh wait, you're giving this meaning right now, right? What meaning are you giving it? Because I just forgot. Like I didn't. It was I had 22 other thousand
Well,
thoughts
yeah,
today. I didn't think
yeah.
about that. I'm sorry.
Well, you know what? That's the real and unfair, but potentially aspect of this is that it doesn't matter what you were thinking. At some point in time, if mine take root, what yours are don't matter because I didn't have them. So now you're trying to replace what I've created that has become a reality with what doesn't feel like a reality and it's coming too late. And now it's in conflict with what I'm thinking. So uh, just think about that, folks. Think about, in fact, I challenge everyone here to do this exercise. We actually had a lady that came to one of our ASA conventions, our conferences a couple of years back, Jay, that told me she did this exercise. And we were talking about it in the business sense. But she came up to me during the breaks and said that, you know, she really appreciated it because it helped things out. And I was thinking she was talking about production or sales or something. And what she had done is she did this exercise with her teenage daughter because they were struggling. Her husband and her were struggling in terms of communicating with their teenage daughter. So they did the index card test. They wrote down what they expected of their daughter. Then they gave her an index card to try to see whether she knew what they wanted. And they were so far apart, they were not even recognizable. And that's where the problem was. And they were trying to fix things in other areas, but it would never have changed it because they were actually looking at the world through two different, completely different prisms. So the index card test is not as easy as it sounds. You and I have done it with our teams before. It takes a little thought because honestly, when we've done this, even in a live setting, what happens is I'll ask people to actually fill out the index card and write down what it is they expect. And you would expect that they could probably do that in a couple of minutes. Some people take 10 or 15 minutes because they really hadn't figured out what they expected. And so how Jay doesn't stand a chance at figuring out what I expect of him if I don't even know what I expect of him. So it really starts there. Sometimes I don't know what I expect of Jay until he does something. And then in that moment, I was like, that's not what I was expecting of you. And I hadn't even given it any thought until that moment, which is why, Jay, most people have a lot of these conversations in moments of crisis. And they don't work in moments of crisis because in moments of crisis, everybody's shields are up. And right now, when my shields are up, I'm defending my position. I'm not trying to understand your position. So consider that index card test. Do you want to talk about, you know, we've talked about doing it in reverse too. What
So
do you
no,
think?
what I was gonna say, I think
Yeah.
we should do that next time. But I
Okay.
think what we should give people today is just one more time exactly what they should do when they
Okay.
stop listening to this podcast. First thing that they should do, step one is
Step one is to get a 4x6 index card, sit down in a quiet place with a particular person in mind. And I say that because different people could generate different index cards in your mind in terms of expectations. So think of the one person. I like what you set up there, Jay. Think of somebody that is very significant in your life because relationships with everybody are not the same. So this is a key person. This is someone who is pivotal in your life.
and I think what you could do too, like if you're listening to this, is the one person that you want to have a better relationship with that you
Yeah.
might be struggling with right now that's taking energy from you and you're like, okay, maybe this is it.
Yep.
Maybe this is the miscommunication that I'm having right now.
Love it. Love it. Because it's also as an exercise, it's um it's not as fragile as having a conversation where I start with Jay, things just seem to be off with me and you.
Exactly.
If
Yeah.
that's how that conversation starts, your shields are going
Yeah.
up
It
and I'm
is not even a shield, it's a force field.
right,
Like
correct. Correct. So pick someone that you, to your great advice, pick someone that you have that is in your orbit that's important to you that you feel you could really stand to have a better relationship with.
Yeah,
Okay.
and again, I mean, there's multiple people listening to this, right? It could
Yeah.
be a person in your life. It could be an employee. It could be
Sure.
your boss. It could
Yep.
be like this exercise literally works with every single human being on the
Yep.
planet. Whatever facet, capacity,
Yep.
whatever they are in your life, you can use this to have a
Great
better
point.
communication system. And what we're going to do over the next couple podcasts, not in a row because we have other guests, but we're going to teach you to kind of use this process. So what we want to do, and you know, when Greg first started teaching me this index card, I wanted to know everything and I wanted to do everything right then and there. And he was like, just slow your roll. Like, just do this one thing. And I'm like, yeah, but what's next? And he was like, do this one thing, because I know that human beings are really effective when they do one thing at a time and they understand it and they have the conversation and it's not rushed. So
Right.
the other thing that you told me to do is to explain why. And,
Mhm.
you know, the why when I do this with people is I say, listen, you know, I just feel like we could communicate better. Like I love our friendship. I love the job that you're doing here. But what I want to do is I want to take our relationship, our mentorship, our coaching to another level. And the only way to do that, and this is the advice that you've given me, is by doing this exercise that I've learned from my mentor. Right. So use what I use, right? I learned this from my mentor, Greg Gray. And I just say, hey, I've learned this from Greg Gray, and it's, you know, it helps me build better relationships. Or, you know, my mentor told me I should do this with my wife because it's going to help us communicate better. However you want to word that. So you're going to get that index card. You're going to sit down and you're going to write down the
What
expectation, what it
right.
is you
What it is,
think.
right. Absolutely. The most important things. So don't, you're not trying to write in a, size 3 font on a index card. This pick 4 things. Pick the 4 most important things that you expect of this person. Because if
And
it gets much bigger than that, there's too many targets.
and
So,
then you're
and
going to
then
have
then you're going to actually, so you're not going to share this card. This card's going to
okay,
belong to you.
good.
So it's me and you, Jay. So I write this card, I fill this card out for you. Okay. What I expect of you. Then what I say to you, and I love, I want to, what you said a minute ago, I think is a really big deal. Because if you blame it on Jay and I, it can actually make the conversation go a little better. So this is something I saw on a podcast versus, you're screwed up and I'm trying to figure out how to make you a better person, is how it might come out otherwise. So I have the card. So I'm telling Jay, you know what? I heard this really great idea that allows people to deepen their relationships and really bring higher quality communication to the relationships. So here's what my part was. My part was to actually write down on an index card what it is in my mind, in my heart, that I expect of you. So the next part of the exercise is I'm going to give you a blank index card, Jay. And what I want you to do on your index card is to write down what you think I wrote down on my index card. So take 3 or 4 minutes to do that. So it's a solo activity. It's not rushed. There's no hints given. It's just, I'm just giving Jay an index card, a pen, and just those directions. And I'm going to have him write down what he has on an index card. So,
And then flip the script and do it.
yep.
The other person does the same exact thing,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely. Yes, because it works much better. Because remember, index cards, expectations are not one way. They work both ways. So if I really want to deepen this relationship and make it work, I'll have Jay do the same thing. I'll have him write down on an index card what he expects of me. And then I'll see if I can match it on our index card. So here's the good news in this. We might find out that we are a lot closer than we thought we were, and that is actually can make your heart smile a little bit, because sometimes part of the struggle is we think we're way off, and we may not be way off, but we may be way off. You may be writing things down. I'm like, where in the world did you get that from? Which, by the way, you should not say out loud because that kind of makes this messy. But what you do, so let's get back to this step. So you've written down what you have on your index card. I'm not going to tell you what I have written down. I'm going to ask you to tell me what you wrote down. So you're not just going to hand it to me. I'm going to read it silently. I'm going to have you actually tell me what it is you wrote down. and I'm going to listen without judging, without correcting, without interrupting. I'm just going to listen because it's important. I might be learning something from what you're saying that I didn't anticipate. Then I'm going to say, well, here's what I actually wrote on the index card. I wrote this, this, and this. And where you find that you have the same thing going on, you want to celebrate that. So you and I both said X, Jay, and that was dead on. And it was cool because I didn't give you any hint about that. But where things seem to be a little bit separate was with these two things here, which seem to be very different than the other things. So I'm glad we had this conversation because I don't want you ever to be in the dark about what I expect of you. Now, this is relationships, this is kids, this is, you mentioned this is vertical. You could actually have this conversation with your boss. And as a boss, I'm telling you, I would appreciate it
For sure.
because
And
I
I
don't
would
want to be
say,
walking around
and
in
I
the
would say
dark
to
either.
take this conversation to another level, and then we'll segue on.
Yeah.
But I think to take this conversation to another level, if I'm thinking about someone having, because whenever I think about these things, I think about if someone was having this conversation with me, how would it fall on me?
Mhm.
You know, how would I think about this conversation? And I think the one thing that we read is the one thing, right? And if you want to get and have success in life, you sometimes have to focus on one thing. And at the end of that conversation, whatever it is that's in there, and something that has taken my marriage to the next level is to say, if there was one thing that I could do every single day that would take our relationship to the next level, of these things that you have expectations of, like if there's one thing that I could do consistently every day, what would it be? And put that ball in their court, because there's one thing that I know. There's one thing I can do every day in my marriage. If it's going to be something that she says is going to take our relationship to the next level, like I need to listen to that. And the other thing is the conversation needs to evolve, because sometimes you just cannot live up to that person's expectations, right? They might write something down that you're like, you know, I mean, to be honest with you, I just can't live up to that expectation. I cannot do that. And then you're going to have to figure out how to come to some kind of agreement on that. You know, like if your boss's expectations is for you to stay in the office till 9:30 every single night to get sales done, you might say, listen, I got a family.
Right.
Like I can't do that. Like,
Yeah.
can we come to some kind of an agreement? And I think that's the key that you taught me too, is because sometimes these expectations, like you said, if you listen, one, you don't want to react, like you just said, and be like, okay, look, I can't do that. Like, that's not what you ever want to say. And I think that's what you taught me is, you know, something that you taught me a long time ago that I use is this can't continue. But I don't say that, like, you know, this relationship can't continue if that's your expectation. But again, it opens up the doors, and then you can talk about why you can't live up to that expectation, because I'm going to let you down. And
so I want to get, I am so anxious to getting to you talking about goal setting, but I have to tell you that even in this moment, you said something that I think is important for what would make this work. So business aside for a second. So we're out of the business space, where, because that's where contracts are and the expectations and paying and all those other things. I think probably in more personal relationships, that humility would be a really important thing to do. So rather than me, so Jay is my friend, rather than me starting by telling Jay what I expect of him, I think probably it's wiser if I let him go first. And I set this conversation up, and you said this earlier, and this is something actually in my head I would think I might even say verbatim, is, you know what? I know, Jay, that our relationship can get to another level. But I also know that I can't figure out how to do that by myself. And so I really want your help to help me be better in this relationship. So here's what I'd like you to do, Jay. I'm giving you a 4x6 index card, and you know we've been friends for a while. I want you to write down on that 4x6 index card what it is that you expect of our relationship, and start that way versus starting with what I expect of you, because that seems a little me centered. But if I start with Jay doing it, it changes the dynamic a little bit, because what it says is I'm coming to the table to get better. I'm not coming to the table to make you better, which may turn some people off.
And the
So,
great thing is that script, if you will, that you just gave, you guys can rewind and write that down because it was really good what he just said, and you can articulate that. I mean, I wouldn't actually put it on your phone and go read it to your friend. I would memorize it so that you can go and have that. But before I segue to goals, I want to just go back to expectations, because we started this off with you can't have expectations of people, right?
Right.
So that's the thing, because expectations are usually momentary. They're in the moment, right? What we're talking about doing is setting a communication of what people expect of you on a day-to-day basis. It's completely different. Expectations of in the moment of you need to do this when I think you should do it is completely different. And so when I say you can't have expectations, you can't have expectations in the moment of someone because you're feeling something and the other person's not, because you're going to be let down. But if you communicate expectations inside of a marriage, inside of a friendship, and you guys agree, that's not an expectation anymore.
Well, and you know what? How about doing it before you get in a relationship and before you get into too deep? Because when you're in, it's a little hard to reverse engineer your way back out.
Yeah, and that's the key. I think we can't skim over that. Like this is something that people in new relationships, in every relationship that you enter, this should be an exercise that you do with them. But even if you're in an older relationship, it's never too late to kind of go back and say, hey, listen, I feel pressure. I feel like I haven't been living up to your expectations. I feel like sometimes you're giving it meaning, and I promise you I'm just busy. I'm not thinking about it. So let's segue over to goals, if you will. And
absolutely.
And I also call them expectations of thyself. Because we should have expectations of ourselves and what we want to accomplish. And when we wake up in the morning, what we're going to do, because, all of us have done this, including me. On Monday, I'm going to definitely start eating better. On Monday, I'm definitely going to start working out. On Monday, I'm not going to be on my phone as much as I was around my family. I'm definitely going to change that. And then what happens is it never changes, right? And it's because we don't have a system, and we also don't have accountability. And, we talked about systems all the time. And what we're going to start talking about for the next 10 minutes or so is a system of setting goals. So every book I've read, every seminar I've gone to, people are like, write down goals, write down goals, write down goals. If you don't write your goals down, you never accomplish them. Well, writing down goals is a start.
Correct.
Right? But it's not a system, right? I mean, you got to look at them every day. And how do you reach your goals? Well, you got to break them down. And, most people set a year goal. Some people set a 2-year goal. People do vision boards. I want a Bugatti and I want a $5 million house. And, they're not driving that kind of car right now, and not going to drive $1 million car probably in the next 10 years. Right? So what I want to talk to you guys about today is how to segment your goals down to the day, down to the hour, to the month, to the week, to the year. So what we're going to talk about today is the hour, the day, and the week. Now, before I go there, when we set a goal, we need to set it in 90 days, right? And when we set a goal, if the goal doesn't scare you, it's not big enough, right? It's not what you accomplished before. You never set a goal of, I want to accomplish exactly what I've already accomplished. Like that's not really a goal. You've already done that. If you're not doing what you used to accomplish, that just means that you slacked off and you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, right? So I want to get back to where I was. Like, if you ever hear yourself say that, you just need to punch yourself in the face and be like, okay, no, that's stupid. I don't want to go back to where I was. I want to get better. Right. So the way that first of all, my goals, and everyone listening for the most part, except for my dad, he still has a flip phone, but most people have a device that has a calendar on it. Yeah. And on that calendar, you need to have the goals that you want to accomplish in the next 90 days on the top of your calendar, where you got to move it every single day. So all the goals that are there on the top of the calendar, you can set no time. It shows up goals, and you got to move that every single day. And then during that day, you want to schedule what you're going to do that day to get that much closer to your goal. So let's just say, for example, I want to lose 10 pounds this month, right? Mm-hmm. So if there's 30 days in a month, how many pounds do I need to lose a day?
Okay. Now you're bringing out math.
I know. That's why I did that, because I just want to show everybody how bad your math is. You lose one third of a pound, Greg. 1/3 of a pound.
1/3 of a
Yeah,
pound. That
yeah,
seems
1/3 of a
that
pound.
seems reasonable,
Right.
actually, when you say that.
Right?
Mhm.
Like, can you lose 1/3 of 1 pound a day for 30 days? Like, how do you do that? Eat less, maybe exercise, take in less sugar, take in less carbs. So it's something that's totally that you can accomplish.
Right.
Right? So what do I have to do every day to do that?
You have to
That you have to
have-
figure it out, right?
have
You,
to-
I mean,
right,
you
yeah.
know what
You need a plan.
you know what to do. Everyone knows what to do. It's just
Right.
you don't do it because
Right.
you don't set these expectations,
Mhm.
right? So I know what I need to do every single day to do that, right? Now, what I like to do is I like to break the day down into quarters.
This
Okay.
is the part I love here. Yeah.
So the reason I like to break things into quarters is because I love football and I love basketball. And I love to watch those sports. I love to play those sports. And those sports are broken down into quarters. Why? Because no game is won or lost in a quarter except for if you're the Atlanta Falcons, right? They lost in the fourth quarter of the Super Bowl against the
Yikes. That
sorry.
hurts.
I keep using that
The
one.
wound is open.
And
man.
the
I'm telling you,
quarterback
wound
won the
is-
Super Bowl this year that actually did it to you guys. So
I
anyways,
saw that. Yeah.
so the reason why they're broken down in quarters at the end of the quarter, what's the team do? They go to the sideline, right? What do they do at halftime? They go in the locker room, they assess, what did we do the first quarter, the second quarter? Okay, what do we got to do the third quarter, the fourth quarter? So they're constantly assessing the game. Every game is ran on time and score, right? When you watch a football game, basketball game, you're watching the score, you're watching the clock, and you're like, okay, my team is down by 14. If you're the Atlanta Falcons, we're up by 25. We're definitely going to win the Super Bowl.
Okay.
Nope.
Can we?
So
is there,
sorry,
wait, basketball
I don't even
possible?
know why I keep going back there.
I
So
know why you keep going back.
So anyways, so that's how you manage it in your mind. Like, I know when I'm watching the Miami Heat, at fourth quarter, they're down 10 points. It's 3 minutes left in the game. I'm like, you know what? They need 3 3-pointers, right? This is what I'm thinking the whole time I'm watching a basketball game. This is how you have to think in your day. So let's just say whatever you're focused on. Let's say it's working out, right? I'm going to work out an hour a day. Break that into quarters. What are you going to do the first 15 minutes, the next 15 minutes? Let's say you're working at an office, right? And you're in sales. Break your day, your 8-hour day into quarters, 9 to 11, 11 to 1, 1 to 3, 3 to 5. What do you have to do in that day to accomplish it? Now, I'm going to break your week into quarters, right? If you break your week into quarters, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, right? Not Friday. Friday's overtime, right? I'm going to accomplish my goal, what I need to accomplish in that week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. If I don't hit my goal on Thursday, I have an extra day to do whatever it takes to hit my week goal. Now, I'm going to take you to the month. A month happens to have 4 quarters. There's 4 weeks in just about every month. Sometimes there's 4.5, maybe there's 5 in some months, but there's 4 quarters in every single month.
Right.
And a year, guess what? There's 4 quarters. So I'm going to have 90-day goals. I'm going to break them down into month goals. So if my 90-day goal is to lose 30 pounds,
Right.
is that possible? I've
Sure
seen
it
it done by a lot of people, right? So how many pounds do I need to lose a day in 90 days to hit my goal? And that's what I want you guys to think about. And I'm going to get a little bit further into this, how you can schedule in your calendar and make sure that you're living up. I mean, just like our book club,
Yep.
right? We digested a 600-page book in, I don't know, was it a month and a half, 2 months?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Because what? We broke it down into little pieces. And
50
like when
pages
I
of stuff.
said to you, Greg, 1/3 of a pound a day, you're like, oh, that's not bad. And that's what we had to think about. But now when we set a year goal and you're like, this year, I want to lose 60 pounds. Holy shit.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
a lot. Or I want to make $100,000 a year. I want to take my income from $50,000 to $100,000 a year next year. Well, let's break it down into how are you going to do that every single day, every single week, every single month? How are you going to do it? And what are the activities? So then the activities have to be scheduled on your calendar into those quarters, into those days. And if you have to look at those every single day, am I that much closer to this goal? So it's a system
Yeah.
to make sure that you reach your goals. Now, before we wrap this up, the only thing that I want to say is this,
Yeah.
and I'll let you chomp at this.
Because I actually have a question for you, because I have struggled with this and you've kind of planted this in my head, but I'll ask you the question.
What,
You
the
finish.
Falcons losing?
No, I don't have any question about that.
Okay.
I was
Okay.
completely clear on that. No,
You see how that throws him off? It throws
I
him
do.
off every
Yes.
single time.
Yes.
He's still bitter.
I am.
Oh.
I'm harmed by that. I'm harmed by it, honestly. So here's what I'm going to go ahead and ask you now. So, because otherwise it'll be another Tom Brady joke, and I'm misting up here. I'm just misting up. So you talk about the idea, and we've talked to people about this together, because everyone says write your goals down. I just wanted to go back to that for a second. So write your goals down. Which, by the way, is progress for a lot of folks, including me. But there is this thing where, for example, you wrote that exercise. So I'm going to exercise X amount of time. So what I do and have done, and I'm sure I'm not alone, is I'll go and I'll have my list of to-dos, and I'll write a list and I'll write down exercise on the list. But it's not married to a duration or a time of day. But I have it written down that I was going to exercise. And then it's 7:30 at night. I'm like, shh. And that's what the challenge is. So writing down goals is not a bad idea, but if they don't have any system or structure to it, which is what I'm taking from you, is then they start rolling up. And then I start feeling guilty because I didn't get to exercise today. And now tomorrow, I'm like, man, I really better exercise, but I still don't calendar it.
So this is a
Yeah.
great question. So what you just said is it's a to-do,
Yeah.
and to-dos equal procrastination. They just do, right? Honey to-dos. I'm going to get to it on the weekend. I'm going to do this. But when you commit to it, but the next step, Greg, and now you're doing like radio and TV segues. This is awesome,
Yeah.
Greg. You're actually catching on.
I'm working on it. Thank you.
The thing that you have to do is when you set these goals is you have to tell everyone. So if I'm going to work out every single, now I know one thing I know a lot of things about your wife, how amazing she is and all these things. But one thing I know is she works out every day.
Yeah.
So you telling Melody that I'm going to work out 5 days a week at this time, and if I don't, I need you to give me a hard time. That's accountability, right? So when you set goals, like writing them down and putting them on your calendar, but then you have to schedule them. But then first thing you have to do is you got to commit to that expectation of thyself. And then you got to get as pissed at yourself when other people let you down, what expectations you have of them. You got to get angry at yourself, have repercussions of, I didn't do this, I'm not watching TV tonight. I didn't do this, I'm not going to get pizza this weekend. I didn't do this, I'm not going to, be able to go play golf with my friends. Like you got to stick to that. And then if you did do it, you have to reward yourself. Listen, I accomplished this goal. And if you fail your hour goal, your week goal, your day goal, your week goal, your month goal, it's not a failure. All it does is it gets pushed, right? So if I didn't hit my goal this week, I didn't hit my goal today, it goes to tomorrow. And you got to be adamant on, I'm going to hit the goal tomorrow plus whatever I didn't do today. Like I'm going to do whatever it takes.
Yep.
Like that's when you're going to have success in your life. When you're adamant and not feeling like, oh man, I failed. I didn't do this. I didn't get to it. No, that's cool. You know what? I didn't have a successful day as I wanted today, but tomorrow I'm going to make up and I'm going to be on track. I mean, that's the thing. When you watch a football game, basketball game, when they're down 3 touchdowns, people are on the other sideline being like, hey, I'm going to lose the game.
I know where this is going. I feel like I know where this is going.
No more Tom Brady. Okay. I mean, but Ryan was on the sideline doing that. But anyways, I wasn't going to go there until you brought it up. So back to setting those expectations. Let me give you a really quick example.
Okay.
And I've told this story a lot of times, but and some of you might have heard it. But I remember, and why telling people matters is because when you give people permission to hold you accountable, they will. Because people like to hold you accountable, especially my wife. So I used to come home from work 7 o'clock at night. And I would be finishing up my day with my calendar and my goals and text messages and emails. And I would be with my daughter in a room. And when she was like 2 years old, she would be slapping my phone. And I was like, stop, girl. Like, I'm doing some work. Like, why are you slapping my phone? And then I finally realized now she says it. She's like, get off your phone. And she was basically telling me, I want your attention. Mm-hmm. And so when I realized that, I said, you know what? I'm not going to be on my phone from 7 at night until 8 in the morning, because this is her time. And if it's an emergency, I'm not an ambulance, I'm not a fire truck, and I'm not a police officer. I'm with my family. If it's an emergency, they can call 911. I can handle whatever I need to handle at 8 o'clock in the morning. So I did that. I said that to myself,
Mhm.
and I did it for about a week.
I know
And,
this story.
and then I was back in my daughter's room again, and guess what? She this time a little bit more forceful, smacked my phone out, cracked my screen, and I was like, okay, I need to. I'm not disciplined enough to do this. So I said, you know what? I'm going to tell my wife. So we were having dinner, and I said, listen, babe, when I get home from work, if you see me on my phone, I need you to say something to me. She's like, why? I was like, because I want this to be your time. I want to spend time with Luna and you, and I don't need to be on my phone, and I don't have the discipline enough to like sometimes put it down. So I was like, okay, I can live up to this. Now my wife knows, and she's gonna have a lot of fun telling me not to do this. So I was at the dinner table one night. My phone vibrated in my pocket. I pulled it out. I started looking at it. My wife was like, I'm like, you getting sick, babe? Oh, no. I just noticed you on your phone over there. And I was like, you know what? You're right.
Hmm.
But if I wouldn't have given her that permission to hold
Right.
me accountable,
Yeah.
then she wouldn't have. So the solution to like you working out, Greg, because I know it's something that you don't love to do.
Right.
It's not something that's a passion of yours, and it's arduous for you to do. Like people have those things, right? And now at my age, I don't love to work out. I just do it because I need to. And I will tell you on goals and things that you don't want to do. When you set goals, you're gonna have to do a lot of things you don't want to do, and those are the
Right.
things you should be doing.
Absolutely.
If you wake up in the morning and you don't want to do it, that's exactly what you should be doing.
That's probably a good indicator. Yep.
But with this, and this is a part of setting the expectations for yourself. Like tell everyone, tell your wife, tell your kids, because guess what? Your kids are watching. And if you tell your kids, hey, if you don't see daddy do this, say something. They love to tell daddy what he ain't doing wrong. I mean, what he's doing wrong, right? They love to. And the thing is if you care about what your kids think, you care about what your wife thinks, you care about your friends think, like all my businesses that I've ever built, I've always painted a vision for everybody on my team and telling them what we're going to accomplish, because I know that I don't want anybody saying, remember back in 2008, you said we were going to do this. Whatever happened to that?
Right.
So and again, we'll get further into the goals and how to set goals and what are the right goals to set. But I would say if you just start there, it's going to be a good start. Writing them down, putting them on a calendar, putting them in front of your face, communicating them to your family. If you start with that, you're going to create a lot more success in your life. And what you're going to do with people around you is you're going to also create habits with them that they're going to want to do the same thing.
You'll be modeling the behavior.
Correct.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I know one of those things that you committed to, because you told me, and I'm holding you accountable to it, is when we got to the top of this hour, that family is it's time to transition to family time.
Yeah, it transitioned to 6 o'clock. I did tell my wife it was going to be 6:15 because we got started a little late today because of another call that ran over. So I do really appreciate you helping me stay accountable, because I did tell her if I do work past 6 o'clock that she needs to hold me accountable. So I really don't want her to hold me accountable today. I want to live up to that expectation that I set for her.
Yes.
So this has been fun, Greg, and we're gonna delve into this more. Greg's gonna give you more stuff to come on upcoming podcasts, like how you can effectively communicate when someone's not living up to that one thing or that expectation. How the conversation you could reinforce the behavior that you want in your marriage, or reinforce the behavior that you want from your children, or reinforce the behavior you want from your business partner. He's going to help you guys with that in the next podcast. And we're going to delve a little deeper into goals. And we're going to also recap some other really smart people's takeaways from what has made them really successful.
Let's plant this in there too, Jay, because we can see when people have comments. But I think it'd be really cool if we get some what if scenarios that people actually comment.
Yeah.
And
I like that.
And deal
you know
with
what? And I would like
lifetime. Yeah.
You know what I like to do too, Greg?
What's that?
Is I like to get some people on here with us live. We can send them a link, and they could come on and ask us the question live and get us on the podcast, and you guys can be a part of the podcast live with Jay and Greg, and we can have a conversation and kind of help you with some struggles that you might be having in your career, or your I don't know if I want to be a marriage counselor, because I don't know. Greg's way better at that than me. So maybe you could do that, Greg.
Well, look, I've touched the stove a couple of times, so I can tell you where it's hot.
But
I
yeah,
do,
get
but I
on
do
this.
think that would be awesome, and I think people should kind of
Well, I tell you,
prepare for
if you're
that.
interested in doing that, if you ever want to do that in advance and you have a question or during it, you can email Lola at provestinsurance.com and she can make you a part of it and we can get you on here and answer some questions. So,
You can put it in the
uh,
comments too. We'll check it
yep,
out. If you put it in the comments, we'll
yep.
figure out how to get back to you.
Yeah, well, and
That'd be
we'll
great.
answer your question live right on the spot. Like we'll make it a priority. So, Greg, love you, brother. Thank you so much.
Fantastic.
Thanks.
Welcome. And hey, hug and kiss Sky for me until I can get there and do it.
And Luna, don't forget about Luna. Don't
Well,
forget about Luna.
Luna is my buddy.
Don't forget.
Absolutely. There you go. Take
All
care,
right,
my
guys.
friend. We'll see you guys later. Thanks a lot for joining us.